I have a question for you regarding the Sacramento Kings and this whole playing up and down to the competition thing.
Okay.
Two things on it. One, let's start here. One, I think that's kind of a like easy answer to that's just not that good of a team. Because every time the 49ers have been like that at points in my life. We go, man, they just really, if they play up to the competition or down to the competition, man, I just kind of think they're just not. They're just
Okay.
kind of there. It means you're just right in the middle.
Yeah, I think that that's what it does mean. It doesn't mean that you're not a good team. It means that you're not a
bad.
you're not a bad team. You're just not a great team.
Yeah, you're just
Like, if
you're
that's who you are,
coasting.
like, there isn't I mean, I'm sure we could look through the course of time and see a team that lost a bunch of games against bad teams, but beat all the good teams and went on to win an NBA championship. Maybe.
Maybe.
But just like that trait in a team is frustrating. There are certain traits in a team that Kyle, when they show up and they don't go away, and then it becomes like who you are, the fabric of who you are in a season.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's nothing more jarring than that. Like, I can honestly tell you right now, the Sacramento Kings are not a good home team, despite the fact that
Again,
they have an incredible crowd, that they have, like, to me, one of the best fan bases, if not the best in the NBA, that the building is packed every single night. If you can't draw energy from a crowd, and now the Kings at home this season, they're 17 and 12. That's not good enough. In order for this team to take the step, they needed to win 30 games at home.
That's literally the number we said at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, and now at 17 and 12, you're looking at a team that's 29 games. They've got
maximum
12 games left. The best they could win if they swept everybody is 29, and it's more likely that they're going to win 24. And that's bad.
That's not good.
That's what they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, like, we talk about like internal improvement and how can you get better without, like, you could get better with just like being a little bit better defensively. They could have got better this season. And then the other way for them to get way better was to take care of home court advantage. Like, there's no reason for that. There's no reason that you're 19 and 15 on the road and 17 and 12 at home.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, and I think it's interesting that the Kings have like so many home games left. So like they've only got 19 games left, and 12 of them are at home.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't reassure anybody. Like, that's not good. I'm talking. I just said right there, I think they'll win 24, 25. That means they're going to win 7 or maybe 8 of the remaining 12. And that's not, I don't even think percentage wise that's just what they're on pace to win. That's not good. And so, yeah, I mean, we talk about these things like, taking care of business at home or beating bad teams. Like, these are things that, like, they seep into your identity. And then once they're there, it's really tough to change it during a season.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Yeah, totally.
It's just like you said that Domas acknowledged it.
Yeah.
That here we go again feeling. And when you're at home and you're
at home and you got a rowdy crowd. I mean, this place is packed. Like, they keep adding seats to Golden One Center.
Yeah, man.
Like, I've never seen anything like it. It's like, hey, look, where did that whole section just come from?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't quite get it. And I'm just kind of at a loss because this is 2 years of this now.
Yeah.
I went in this year. If you had told me to pick like one thing I was really sure of with the Kings, like, well, they'll be better at home for sure.
Yep.
Like, that's just going to happen. Maybe they get a little worse on the road, but man, I think they're going to be really hard to beat at home. They're just not. They lose to the Pistons and the Hornets.
Yeah.
Like, what? They struggle with the Spurs twice.
Yeah.
Once without Victor Wembanyama.
They lose to the Bulls.
They lost to the Bulls.
I mean,
in a game you're up big.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. It's the oddest the oddest thing. The other thing that I circle back to with this, and I don't know exactly where I land, but part of me wonders if the Kings are the team that the good teams are playing down to.
Oh,
Like, did the Bucks see the Kings and go, huh, all right? Or
boy,
did
that's tough. I didn't think about that. Like, did the Denver Nuggets
go, nah,
play down to the level?
right? And then when they go, oh, they're gonna sweep us. Okay, hang on, let's put this game in a
Let's make
chokehold a
sure
little
they
bit.
understand who we
Yeah,
are and who they are.
and that's kind of what. And I think there's a big enough sample size to of the Kings playing playing well against them that we go, okay, well, that's not necessarily it, but I think it's something you have to consider.
That's harsh.
And I
Yeah,
don't, but that's the thing is they're not, and I please don't take it this way. They're not the Wizards. They're not the
no.
Spurs. Like they're not that they are firmly and should be in the tier that they're in, where they're in that kind of third tier of team that's battling for that final playoff spot. Like that's I think right about where they are.
I think last season, very specifically, I felt like a lot of teams just they didn't run their A team out there every single night against the Kings.
Yeah.
I felt like, you play a team on a Tuesday night and they might, I think one time the Lakers sat LeBron.
Hmm.
You play the Clippers and they're going to sit a couple of guys. You play and you kind of went around the league and like, okay, like how many times did you play Embiid? Like maybe once,
Hmm.
and how many times did you? Like, I think Giannis sat out one of the games.
Yeah. I think they lost again. The Giannis sat out
Yeah,
at home.
those are the well, I think it was at home. I think those are the games where you're like, okay, like, look, I think there is a possibility. And this year, more often than not, I know we keep thinking of, oh, you played a team that was missing players. Most of those games are against bad teams. Like it wasn't just that they lost to the
That's
Pistons.
yeah.
Like Cade Cunningham didn't play in that game, and neither did like one or two of their other players.
Hmm.
Like that wasn't your A team,
And then
and
they
and,
cut a
and
bunch of dudes the next day.
it's an F team, and you lost to an F team without their A squad. So you're playing a team that's not good, and they didn't even bring everybody, and they still beat you. And
Yeah.
so those are the games where you're just like really frustrated with this group that
Hmm.
that there just isn't like a focus on the moment. And I wrote in our notes because we always do our we scoreboard watch, right? And I
Yeah.
wrote under the Mavs Bulls, Mavs 127, Bulls 92. The Mavs are a mess, and they've been a mess all season long, and they're going to be a mess because that's just who they are. But
Yeah.
I wrote my note. This is what taking care of business looks like.
Yeah. You just put the screws to a worse team.
That's a team that you isn't that far below the Mavs in the standings, the Bulls, and they throttled them and said, "Okay, look, and this is who we are tonight. We're going to beat you because you're not a very good team."
Hmm.
And you go look at the Bulls; it's the same exact team they ran against the Kings a week and a half ago and beat the Kings.
Hmm. And throttled the Warriors at Chase Center.
Yeah.
Not
So,
throttled, just beat them.
I mean, I guess that happens, like where teams that aren't very good,
Hmm.
figure out a way. But it just feels like more often than not, it's the Kings that it happens to.
Yeah. It's inexplicable to me.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, this all circles back to why, and we've talked about this ad nauseum this year, why it's very likely this team is going to look significantly different next season.
Yeah, I would hope so,
Yeah.
but I also
There's
hope so, you know, for a while now.
just talent wise, mindset wise, I think there's a dramatic change that needs to happen if they're going to take that leap.
Yeah, you've gone through 3 full, trade areas.
Mm-hmm.
A trade deadline followed by an off season followed
Mm-hmm.
by a trade deadline where you did not make
Mm-hmm.
any marked improvement
Mm-hmm.
at all to the
Mm-hmm.
roster.
And honestly, I could kind of see, I could hear the argument last trade deadline for sure. I could even hear the argument this offseason. I didn't really agree with it, but it's like, okay, I'll hear that out.
Yeah.
Even at this trade deadline, you could, I think, make the argument like, okay, well, hey, De'Aaron's been a little slow lately. He'll bounce back. Herter's shot's going to start falling. Keegan's going to start being more aggressive, and want to see what this looks like. I'll even at this point now, dude, I'm ready to.
Well, it's the
I don't
same.
I don't hear the arguments anymore.
No,
I
and at
can't
the
see it.
and at the trade deadline, you knew that JaVale McGee wasn't a true answer. You
Yep.
knew that Chris Forte wasn't a true answer, and you you really should have known that Sasha Vezenkov injury, no injury, wasn't like the solution to all your problems.
Yep.
So how do you manage that? And you didn't.
Mhm.
You ignored it.
Yeah.
And so this is what that looks like.
Yep. 100%.